As the expected surge approaches, Ohio remains shut down. This is Columbus on the Record. Joining us this week, Jesse Balmert, State House reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer, and Jeremy Pelzer, State House reporter for Cleveland.com. Experts are hopeful that we have flattened the upward curve of the coronavirus cases in Ohio, but the curve remains and it is rising at an increasingly steep slope. Because experts don't know when we are going to hit the peak of that slope and head back down, Governor DeWine this week extended the stay-at-home order until May 1st. The order means Ohioans are prohibited from doing non-essential tasks. It also means that non-essential businesses must remain closed for the rest of April. The governor did toughen it up a little bit, though, this time. He has ordered stores that are open to limit the number of customers they can have in the store at any one time. Non-commuters who travel into Ohio from another state must quarantine themselves for 14 days. Wedding receptions are limited to 10 guests only. And the new order does not place any restrictions on worship services, despite the fact that reports are a couple of churches anyway in Ohio have been holding mass gatherings for their worship services. Ohio now has more than 3,300 cases of coronaviruses, that's confirmed cases, including 895 hospitalizations, and now 91 people in Ohio have died from COVID-19. Jesse, first to the stay-at-home order, no surprise there. We knew it was coming. The old one expires on Monday. We're nowhere near the end of this. So it was no surprise. The details of it, were they a little surprising or not?
Well, I think Governor DeWine has been pretty good about projecting what he's going to do moving forward. So a few days before he actually does something, he's like, hey, this is coming. And so in that regard, it wasn't surprising. But one of the changes was the different stores are going to have to set their own limits for how many people should be in the building. And that's interesting. Places like Kroger or, different places where you might be going for medication or for groceries might be limiting how many people are getting in. So that's a change that Ohioans might see if it's a particularly packed day.
Yeah, he could be waiting out line. He didn't put a number on that though, Jeremy. And could he have? I mean, could you just take, okay, I have so many square feet of aisle space. We need to stay 6 feet apart, do the math. So Costco, you have this many people. Kroger, you have this many people. This neighborhood hardware store, you have this many people. But he didn't do that.
No, actually, so this was a Department of Health order, and under state law, the Department of Health has really broad authority to do just about whatever it takes to curb the spread of infectious diseases. So sure, they could have done some calculated formula or whatever they wanted, but they're trying to keep it simple. And their whole, the DeWine administration and the governor himself, their whole attitude about this has been, hey, do it yourself. And if you don't do it, we'll lay down the hammer. But right now they're trying to encourage people to do it rather than force them to do it.
Yeah, I sensed a bit of frustration this week that there were businesses that were pushing the limits a bit. And the governor and the health director and lieutenant governor said, look, we're going to start cracking down. And Jesse, they come up with this panel that's going to decide if one store in one county is being treated differently than a store in another county. Is that going to work, or is that just another layer of bureaucracy? And how is that going to work?
I guess time will tell. Right now, the way it's being handled is local health departments are deciding whether businesses are too close together. My colleagues looked into this in Southwest Ohio. The challenge is there are more than 100 different health departments between city health departments and county health departments all across the state. And so how one does it is slightly different than how the next one does it, or in our part of the state, how Kentucky might do it as opposed to how Ohio might do it. And so maybe this panel will provide some clarity to that, but I think that might take a little bit of time.
And it was odd, Jesse, that they have the final say. There's no appeal, which the court may disagree, but at least as it stands right now, this group has the final say.
Yeah, I think to your point, a lot of this is being handled at the state level, and then it might be end up in the courts as people are upset about the particular decisions that are being made. And we'll really see the limits of this public health order, which is in state law, and they've used it very broadly for a variety of things, from closing school buildings to closing, asking people to stay at home, to asking
Canceling
people to
election?
pay a certain amount. Yes, closing the polls.
Yep.
And then state lawmakers kind of reset the election primary date for a later day. So it's been used a lot in the past several weeks, and I think eventually we'll find out whether courts agree with that, but that'll take a little time.
One of the things, Jeremy, that came up this week was the whole controversy over Hobby Lobby. It's the craft store. It was closed the first week or so of the shutdown order. Then on Monday, it apparently reopened, and claiming it was essential because they were providing craft materials, fabric for making masks and healthcare items. And then Dave Yost, the Attorney General, sent a cease and desist order, and the stores agreed to close. So there's where what is an essential business is kind of fuzzy still.
Sure. And they're trying to do this on the fly. This is, as they keep mentioning, a once in a century pandemic. And so there's no real script on the nuances of what should be open and what should be closed. They're just trying to handle it on the seat of their pants, and frankly, it's interesting that it's sort of a two-way street. The question time during these daily briefings, I believe it was Molly Martinez of Spectrum News who kind of spilled the beans on Hobby Lobby, and the governor sort of responded, "Oh, I didn't know about that. We're going to have to look into it." And sure enough, a few hours later, the Attorney General's laying down a cease and desist letter. So it's interesting. Like today, I know that Jesse's colleague, Jackie Borchardt, raised the idea about what happens for medical marijuana recipients. How do they get their medicine? Do they go curbside? And the governor said, "Well, I don't know. We're going to have to look into it now that you mentioned it." So it's interesting that they're just kind of, "Oh, I didn't think about that part of it," and then they act accordingly.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell because Hobby Lobby had to close, but Joann Fabrics is open. And I think they're claiming that they produce fabrics which you can use to make clothes. Okay, so you can buy fabrics to make clothes, but you can't go to Macy's to buy clothes because Macy's isn't essential, so they have to close. But you can go to Target to buy clothes because they're also a grocery store and they sell food. So it's when you think about it,
not a science. Yeah.
Art
Yeah,
is
I
a generous
agree.
word.
I agree. I think that's the frustration on a lot of local businesses is there isn't a lot of clarity on this order that came out, and there isn't going to be more clarity on the one that's going to take effect at almost midnight on Monday. And so I think there's a balance between, you can't just go down every single business in the state and say yes or no. That would take forever. You want people to give a little bit of judgment as to what might be essential versus non-essential, but in the lack of that clarity, people are just kind of guessing.
Yeah. The reason why we're doing all this is because we're trying to flatten the curve. We're trying to limit the spread of the quickness of the spread of coronavirus to keep people healthy and keep people alive, and also keep us from overwhelming the healthcare system. What are state officials, Jeremy, what are state officials saying now is the flattening the curve working? Are hospitals going to be able to handle this when and if the big surge comes?
Well, it remains to be seen, and they're being pretty cautious about saying we're not out of this yet. But Dr. Acton and the governor are saying, well, so far it seems to be helping. They're using all these different projections to see how exactly what will happen, because you can't prove a negative. You can't prove what would happen if they didn't do any of these actions. But they're relying on a couple of different projections and studies to show like where it's going to go and what they should do next. And some of them they have not released yet. Like there's the Ohio State projection, and they say that'll be coming in a few days. But so far, we're just knowing what the results are, what they're looking at, not exactly the projections themselves.
The cases, Jesse, are increasing. The number of deaths, unfortunately, tragically, are increasing, but we're not seeing the huge spikes that, say, New York has seen or Italy saw, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think researchers from both Ohio State University, who's working with the Ohio Department of Health, and then a separate group from Cleveland Clinic, which are looking at these models, are saying that it could have been much worse had we not taken the actions that we have. So that's the good news. The bad news is we're also several weeks, several days, a couple weeks behind New York and Italy. And so our cases are growing, whereas theirs might already be a little bit higher. So there is some difference in these projections. Ohio State is projecting the peak of the surge being closer to mid-April or late April, whereas Cleveland Clinic's is mid-May. And I think that's frustrating for people at home who look and see, I mean, how could you possibly be off by a month on when the surge might be? But what they're trying to do is constantly relook at these numbers, and it's like any projection, like a financial projection,
Yeah.
there's some guess to it.
Yeah, and if we're successful in flattening the curve, then that pushes the peak out farther. So
Mhm.
in some ways, we want to have the peak out farther
It's
to lessen the curve.
definitely, there are pros and cons to it. Obviously, I think those who are sitting at home and frustrated and would like to go back to work, or perhaps are unemployed and are really feeling the effects of these restrictions, would like this to be over quicker. But the longer we stretch this out, the better off our hospitals are, the more time they have to prepare for things like beds and staffing and masks and ventilators, which are in short supply right now.
The schools, there's no real mystery there. Governor this week extended the shutdown order for schools until the beginning of May again. That way, again, no surprise there. I guess, Jeremy, the only question is, why doesn't he just cancel classes for the rest of the school year and get it over with?
I think he's just looking at the projections, and he wants to make the minimum impact as possible. So obviously he's not ready to call it yet. And, looking a few months out, at this point, with all the different revised projections like Jesse was talking about, he's not ready to call it yet. And I think that'll be a decision that he'll have to make kind of ahead of time. He can't just make it a day before schools are about to reopen for the fall. But this is something that he doesn't really have to make yet. And so he's going to try to take his time and see where things go.
There's learning and teaching going on, Jesse. I hear kids complaining that they have a lot of work, and I hear teachers complaining that they're having to work like 12 hours a day because they're answering emails or Zoom calls or Skype calls at all hours of the afternoon and the evening. So there's learning going on. Is the learning happening on an equal level all across the state? I would assume not.
It isn't. I think it's impressive, the ingenuity of teachers who are making this happen over platforms that perhaps they're not well versed on and are getting up to speed on in a very short period of time. But like everything in Ohio, there are some areas of the state that are better connected to internet than others. There are some areas of the state that perhaps the students already had iPads for learning, whereas others just don't have those resources. And so that obviously is going to affect the ability of people to learn. And the other challenge is a lot of the public libraries are closed, and maybe that's a place where people would go to access the internet.
Yeah, I can see why the libraries are gathering places. You don't want to bring people together. And frankly, what would happen is parents who want to do something with their kids would dump them at the library. Then that's not going to help with the whole mass gathering thing. I think that's one of the reasons why the library closures always sort of match the school closures as well. Real worship services. The governor, his new stop work or stay at home order, lockdown order, whatever you want to call it, does not include mass gatherings at churches. There have been a few, I think, maybe just a couple around the state. One certainly in Southwest Ohio, down in your neck of the woods, Jesse, that has reportedly had mass gatherings for their services, but the governor didn't take that leap. Is that because of First Amendment issues that the government can't tell a church not to worship? Was that what it was? Or do they have the authority to do that if they wanted to?
I think it's a sticky situation that they would rather avoid. I think they would rather the churches and the synagogues and the mosques to make these choices on their own. And I think the vast majority of them are, but notably Solid Rock Church down on the border of Warren and Butler County is a mega church. So many people come there to worship and are continuing to do their services, in a way that isn't in line with what the science or what the government is recommending for spacing. So the governor expressed some frustration about that, saying it was unchristian, saying that
Yeah, he was pretty blunt.
it was putting people at risk, but he didn't go so far as to stop them from doing it.
Yeah. Right. The economic impact of the pandemic on Ohio is almost beyond belief. Last week, more than 250,000 Ohioans filed for their unemployment benefits. That means over the past 2 weeks, nearly 500,000 people in Ohio have filed claims because they are unemployed. That easily exceeds all of the claims for all of last year. The state agency that handles unemployment benefits is overwhelmed. It's seeing 20 times its normal calls and online activity. The state has hired 300 people to help. Of course, the phone lines have been jammed. Wait times on the phones have been long. Website's been balky. It's been crashing. Jeremy, you look at the graph, it's incredible how unemployment has just spiked. And it's just, the state, you can't blame the state for not being prepared for this because it's incredible.
Actually, for the state's unemployment system, which has for years been near insolvency, it's actually the sheer magnitude of this is actually saving the system, because in times such as these, the system is designed so when there's this huge tidal wave of unemployment benefits needing to be paid out, they go back to the feds, and the feds step in and help with loans, and with the stimulus bill they pass, it provides direct assistance. So they're going to fall back in the feds. So all these benefits will be paid out, but you're absolutely right. This is unprecedented. This is just unlike anything else. And it's not, of course, not just Ohio, it's everywhere else too. And so it's going to really fall on the federal government to pick up the tab on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is more than just restaurant and bar workers now. We're talking COSI laid off 80% of its staff today, the Science Museum here in Columbus. We're hearing marketing firms, advertising agencies, even doctors' offices that are not performing essential services or procedures are having to lay off their staff.
I saw some Chamber of Commerce survey that said about, I forget if it was a quarter of businesses nationwide said they were in danger of closing their doors, like a quarter. That is just unbelievable. And I think perhaps the most unsettling thing is there's no rule book for this. We don't know what has happened. There's no precedent for this. And so everyone's really uneasy to think about where we're going to come out the other side on this.
Jesse, officials are still hopeful that we can bounce back close to where we were when this is all over. Are they still saying that? I know the president is, of course, but is the governor, lieutenant governor, the two economic guys on that threesome that we see every day?
Yeah, I think right now they're taking it one day at a time. And so how we're going to bounce back from something that we've never faced before, haven't faced in decades, it's almost impossible to predict. One of the problems that kind of exacerbates this is that a lot of people were not completely recovered from the last recession that we went through in 2009, 2008. And so we're not really back to where we were pre that recession. And so now we're hitting this problem once again. And it's not surprising that Department of Job and Family Services is having such a trouble answering all of these calls and responding to these emails. But I know there is just frustration among people trying to get through and facing these systems that are just, crashing. The other challenge is Congress approved people with 1099 forms and contractors, self-employed people, to be able to access unemployment. But currently the system in the state, like many other states, isn't set up to take those claims. So you're just waiting.
Yeah, same with the small business loans. It wasn't until Thursday night that the banks got the guidelines on how to award the small business loans to help small businesses keep their people employed for the next however many, I guess 3 months, and hopefully have those loans forgiven should they stay afloat and pay their rents and mortgages and keep those folks employed. Throughout the campaign, throughout all of this, there has been a campaign going on. The Ohio's primary continues. If you haven't voted, you have until April 28th to vote. Candidates and their campaigns are doing their best to continue their campaigns. Of course, they can't go door to door. They can't stand on street corners. So they're shifting all their efforts to online, perhaps telephones. They're sending out emails, holding virtual rallies. The groups trying to collect signatures to get on the November ballot, they are really out of luck. Of course, you can't go out and collect signatures. Nobody's out there, and you can't have someone sign a petition in honor of the 6-foot rule with social distancing. But they still face that July 1st deadline to collect hundreds of thousands of signatures. One of the group trying to get the minimum wage increase to $13 an hour, that group has gone to court. They've asked the county judge to extend the deadline past July 1st, also to reduce the number of signatures they need, and also allow them to collect signatures online, however they would do that. Jesse, this is just, again, it just shows you how strange the situation is, that we still have campaigns going, but candidates really can't do anything. They might be out of money, first of all, because they were planning this whole thing to be over on March 17th.
That's definitely one of the challenges, and a lot of these local races are, some of the primaries are the general election for some of these seats, just because certain areas are very Republican or very Democratic. So this was the race that was going to decide who is going to be in that spot, and it's very difficult to campaign in this current environment. To your point, the signature collection, I don't know how you could possibly meet that deadline. So like everything else, I think they'll probably find a workaround for it, or they'll have to try again next time. So that'll be interesting. The other challenge is just a lot of people aren't used to the mail-in ballot system, the absentee ballot system. The vast majority of Ohioans vote in person, and so the fact that you have to go send a request to your board and then wait to get your ballot back and then send that back, it's a process that a lot of people aren't used to.
Mike, earlier I spoke with the head of the Ohio House Democrats campaign arm, Ari Alex, and he was saying that what he's doing now to advise his candidates, they're looking to Alaska, when you have people spread out so much in terms of being able to campaign remotely. They're looking at what candidates in Alaska do in the bush in terms of being able to reach out by phone, reach out by computer to reach voters. And it's that remote, it's that isolating that it's basically like the Alaskan tundra out there when it comes to campaigning. I also want to make one clarification of something I said earlier about that Chamber of Commerce survey. So 1/4 of businesses said they've already temporarily shut down, and it's 43% of businesses that say that if something is not done within 6 months, they're going to close. So that's 43% of businesses, and that's huge.
That's incredible. Thanks for that. On the petitions, now the legislature last week came into town, matter of hours. They extended voting until April 28th. They did all these things, but they didn't do anything to the signature drive and the ballot issues. Was that brought up last week? It's something I didn't think of. I mean, something I don't want to handle, because these are pretty much progressive issues that are on the ballot. Jesse,
it wasn't on the list of things that House Republicans were considering, which was more extensive than what actually made it into law. I'm not sure if that's because people didn't think about it, or, to your point, it's not particularly in their interest to have these things pass.
The argument made, at least when I asked Larry Obhoff about it, the Senate president, he said we wanted to stick to things that are directly have to do with the coronavirus response. And while there was, you can make an argument, as you just said, that, this is something affected by the coronavirus, that's something that they felt was too far out of bounds, too far away from the targeted bill that they wanted to do. And there was a lot in that bill, so it's not like,
no, I know,
pretty expansive.
And they were focused on the primary. You can forgive them if the top of mind was not the November election, but any chance, this stuff's in the Constitution, the deadline, the number of signatures you need, it's in state law. Any chance the judge extends the deadline for the collection of signatures or lowers the amount they need?
There's always a chance. I mean, this is an unprecedented crisis in Ohio elections history, so there's always a chance, but obviously that'll probably be appealed, and we'll see how the judicial system goes on this.
Yeah, you have to feel for these groups. Well, wherever you stand on the issue, it's just, I mean, here they are. They ramped up. They already spent a lot of money on these petitions. I think the one that the marijuana was in trouble anyway, and the voting rights issue was broken up into 4 questions. So, but the minimum wage one, we talked to their folks this week for our podcast, Snolligoster, and they were doing pretty well, he says. And he sounded just very disheartened. weren't going to have a chance to get this on the ballot. Let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. And Jeremy, we will start with you. Parting shots this week.
Well, I think there's going to be a number of weddings that'll still be held, but there'll be micro weddings. Governor said it can be receptions of 10 people or less. So I think that'll be the new fad, to have little micro weddings with just a very elite VIP guest list.
Yeah, save the dads of the brides a little cash, right? At least in the
Right.
short term, anyway. Jesse, your final thought.
In his daily press conferences, Mike DeWine has been trying to spread some cheer. And so at one point this week, he shared a performance from the Ohio University's Marching 110, of which I was a member. So that was a lot of fun. And they were playing remotely, and just impressive how people are being working around this.
Yeah, I can imagine the OSU marching band folks were quickly going through their YouTube archives to try to match. They can't let the OU band get the spotlight in those news conferences. But as you have noticed, we are doing the show a little differently tonight. And we had some technical issues at our studio here, computer issues. And so we did it by Zoom, and I think we have done it okay. So I want to thank the folks who made this possible. Our director, John Prosek, our producer, Chuck Oney, also Brent Davis, who is holding the watch here, so I don't go over the time here. Kevin Petrilla, and everyone here at WOSU. Diana Bergerman, helping me produce the show from home. Strange days. We'll get through it. We'll be here at WOSU to keep you up to date on 89.7 NPR News, WOSU.org, and here on WOSU TV, whether we do it by Zoom or the regular old way. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week. Stay apart, stay together, and stay safe.